Nobody thinks about cancer in any joyful way, least of all me. But it brought some really interesting insights to my life, and so I put them in this book. And this book is not about cancer. This is about observations on living. And in looking back in my journey and thinking about what I wanted to talk to you all about today, it feels like I can kind of categorize it into three segments. A segment called confrontation, a segment called choice, and a segment called change. And that's what I want to share with you today. It seems only fair, I hate to talk about cancer, but it seems right that you at least know where I was so that you can see how I got from there to here. And it all started with a little lump that I had in my neck, which turned out not to be my thyroid, thanks to my friend Joni, who gave me an Anatomy 101 lesson. Lymph node, thyroid. Okay, so I'm a lawyer. I didn't go to medical school, and I went off to the doctor, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, I was sitting at the office early one evening, and it's been a long day, and the phone rings, and you can see on the speed dial that it's the doctor, and you're like, okay. Answer the phone, and get a little, hop in the blood pressure, and he says, well, I've got some great news. And I love when they start with the great news, don't you? Great news, your lung x-ray looks terrific. Whew, thank God. And then the gut punch, right? It's the call no one wants, it's the call no one expects, it's the call we all dread. And he says, there's cancer in that lymph node. Well, being the good lawyer that I am, the first thing I say is, no, there's not. Right? Are you sure? Have you checked the lab results? They get things mixed up in the lab all the time. This really actually can't be me. It's, incredulity. I need evidence, right? And thinking back on this when I was writing the book, I actually wrote these words. Denial has an ingenious way of preventing a psychotic breakdown as your mind adjusts to new information. And that's exactly what happened. I was just not gonna deal with it. I know there's this author, my wife probably remembers, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about the 7 stages of death. Denial's a big one. Denial's important. And I think what I came to realize is that you need the space to react to bad news. As soon as he said, we don't know what kind of cancer it is, but it's glandular. I'm like, what does that mean, glandular? And he's like, well, it's either stomach or ovarian. Now, I'm no doctor, but I know for sure that my ovaries used to be right down here with my stomach. And if I had cancer in my lymph node, this was not a good idea. So immediately, I react. And I can tell you that old cliche about tasting the fear, I could actually taste it. My mouth went dry, my heart started pounding, I became sweaty, my hands were clammy, and I was terrified. Oh my God, I have cancer, I have to go in for more tests. And the first part of the journey is understanding that you need to give yourself the space to confront things like that. And it doesn't have to be cancer. It can be the loss of a loved one. It can be your spouse wants a divorce. It can be you've just been fired from a job. But you need to have that space to be able to react because your body reacts, your mind reacts, your emotions react, and you have to allow yourself to have that space. I think it's probably appropriate to share with you how this started the night of my diagnosis. When I found myself wide awake in the wee hours, contemplating the awfulness for me of what was to come. Tripping downstairs in the dark, I flung myself on the couch, and I sobbed uncontrollably into the pillows. My soon-to-be reality of chemotherapy needles, IVs, poisoning my own body to try and beat the disease washed over me. I conjured the hospital's blanched white walls, the machines, the bags of drugs, over and over in my mind's eye. Clutching the pillows to my chest, I gasped for air, and I tried to control the racking waves of anguish. I wanted more than anything for the entire nightmare to vanish, and for it all just to be untrue, for it to be a terrible mistake. But it wasn't. I had cancer. Though I didn't know what kind yet, and that was another nightmare altogether. I would have to slog my way through treatment one way or the other. It was one of the 2 darkest moments of the journey. The second moment that was dark was after I met the oncologist who I didn't choose for this trip. And he gave me what I didn't consider a bright and shiny prognosis of some 18 to 20% chance of surviving since I'd been diagnosed at 51 years old with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And I remembered going home, getting in bed, literally covering up my head, where I stayed until the next day sometime. I think Erica came to try and pry me out. Close, but not quite. But what I felt at that time was this giant rock. And I wrote about this giant rock. It just felt like the weight of the world was on me, and I was now confronted with something that I'd never been confronted with before. And I wrote these words: confronting one's own mortality is exhausting. Confronting one's own mortality is exhausting. And that's how it felt. I was at that place. And sometime during my treatment, I received a card that I've kept until this day. It has a photograph of the bow of a sailboat amidst rough seas under cloudy skies, and it's taken from the perspective of the helm. Quoting Daniel Ichinski, it reads, "Only in the storm can you see the art of a true sailor." I thought I knew who I was. I was a determined woman who got whatever I wanted, so long as I put my mind to it. That's what my mother had taught me. But never had I been confronted with the challenges that lay before me with cancer treatment. What came forth from deep within me was a strength I never knew I had. Whether it was ingrained or taught, I don't know, but it was there, and within days I had set my course that I would fight.